The date is October 1st, 331 BC. The place is Gaugamela, near modern-day Mosul in Iraq. The air is thick with dust and the smell of impending slaughter. On one side stands a massive war machine, the Persian Imperial Army. By modern estimates, they number anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000 men. They have cavalry from India, infantry from Babylon, scythe chariots designed to cut men in half, and even war elephants.
Perhaps 5
They
to
have
1.
flattened the ground to create a killing field. On the other side stands a young man of 25. He is outnumbered, perhaps 5 to 1. His generals are terrified. They beg him to attack at night, to hide their small numbers in the dark. But the young king refuses. He famously says, "I will not steal my victory." He sleeps soundly the night before the battle, while his men stay awake in fear. The next morning, he puts on his helmet and rides directly toward the massive Persian center. He isn't just fighting an army, he is fighting the superpower of the age. If he loses here, Western history ends before it begins. If he wins, he becomes a god. This is not a myth. This is the story of Alexander the Great. But to understand how a 20-something boy found himself staring down the barrel of the apocalypse in the Iraqi desert, we have to go back. Back to the murder that started it all. The story truly begins 5 years earlier, in a pool of blood. King Philip II of Macedonia, the man who turned a backward fierce kingdom into a military powerhouse, is assassinated by his own bodyguard at a wedding. The court descends into chaos. Macedonia is a pit of vipers, known for its brutal rivalries. Into this vacuum steps his 20-year-old son, Alexander. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't negotiate. He immediately executes potential rivals and crushes rebellions in Greece with terrifying speed. He makes a brutal example of the city of Thebes, burning it to the ground and selling its people into slavery. The message is clear, the boy is not to be trifled with. With his throne secure, Alexander looks east. He inherits his father's dream, a Panhellenic crusade against the Persian Empire. It sounds insane. Persia is vast, wealthy, and ancient. Macedonia is small and mountainous. But Alexander has something the Persians don't, the Macedonian phalanx, a wall of 18-foot pikes called sarissas, and the companion cavalry, the shock troops of the ancient world. In the spring of 334 BC, he crosses the Hellespont into Asia Minor with 40,000 men. He casts a spear into the Asian soil and claims the entire continent as spear-won land. It is an act of supreme arrogance. He has no money to pay his troops and supplies for only 30 days. The only way forward is victory. The local Persian governors, the satraps, are unimpressed. They see him as an upstart. They gather at the river Granicus to stop him. Their plan is simple: kill the boy, and the invasion ends. Alexander almost obliges them. In the heat of the battle at Granicus, he does something reckless. He charges ahead of his lines. He is practically alone. 2 Persian nobles charge him. One strikes him on the head with a sword, cracking his helmet. As the Persian raises his arm for the killing blow, one of Alexander's commanders, Black Clitus, slices the Persian's arm off at the shoulder. Alexander survives by a fraction of a second. The Macedonians massacre the Persian cavalry. Alexander wins. But he sends a chilling message to any Greeks fighting for Persia as mercenaries: he slaughters them all. He is a liberator to some, a butcher to others. He marches deeper into modern-day Turkey. At the city of Gordium, he encounters a legend. An ancient ox cart is tied with a complex knot of cornel bark, the Gordian knot. Prophecy says whoever unties it will rule all of Asia. Alexander looks at the knot, realizes it has no ends to pull, and draws his sword. He slices through it in one stroke. Brute force or lateral thinking? It doesn't matter. He believes it is his destiny to rule. By 333 BC, the Persian king, Darius III, finally takes Alexander seriously. Darius raises a massive army and maneuvers behind Alexander, cutting off his supply lines. They meet at Issus, on a narrow coastal strip near the border of modern Syria. The geography favors Alexander. The narrow field neutralizes Darius's massive numbers. This battle reveals Alexander's tactical genius, the hammer and anvil. His phalanx holds the enemy line like an anvil, while Alexander leads his cavalry as the hammer to smash a specific point. Alexander spots Darius in his royal chariot. He ignores the rest of the battle and charges straight for the king. It is a decapitation strike. Terrified by the ferocity of this mad Greek, Darius turns his chariot and flees. His army collapses. Alexander captures Darius's wife, mother, and children. Unlike the butcher of Granicus, he treats the royal women with chivalry and respect. He is a man of contradictions. But the war isn't over. To destroy the Persian navy, Alexander must take their bases. The island city of Tyre refuses to surrender. Tyre is half a mile offshore, surrounded by massive walls. It is considered impregnable. Alexander's response is obsessive. If he can't sail to the city, he will walk. For 7 months, his men build a massive causeway, a land bridge, out into the deep sea, under constant fire from Tyrian ships and archers. They are attacked by fire ships, divers, and artillery. But Alexander is relentless. The causeway reaches the walls. The Macedonians breach the city. The slaughter is absolute. 8,000 Tyrians are killed, 30,000 are sold into slavery. The world learns a hard lesson: you do not say no to Alexander. After the brutality of Tyre, Egypt surrenders without a fight. They welcome him as a liberator from Persian rule and crown him pharaoh. But something shifts in Alexander's mind here. He travels deep into the desert to the oracle of Siwa. He enters the temple alone. When he emerges, the priests address him as the son of Ammonius, the son of God. Alexander begins to believe his own hype. He is no longer just a king. He sees himself as a demigod, equal to Achilles and Hercules. This brings us back to where we started, Gaugamela, 331 BC. The final showdown. Darius has chosen this ground perfectly. He has cleared the rocks for his chariots. He waits. But Alexander's tactic is bizarre. He moves his troops to the right, almost off the prepared battlefield. Darius has to shift his line to match him, creating a gap in the Persian center. It is a trap. Alexander spots the gap. He forms his elite cavalry into a giant wedge and rides straight into the heart of the Persian army, straight at Darius again. The psychological pressure is too much. For the second time, the King of Kings turns and runs. The Persian army disintegrates. Alexander is now the master of Asia. He enters Babylon in triumph. He takes Susa and sits on the Persian throne. He marches to Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire. Here, he makes a controversial decision. After a night of heavy drinking, possibly urged on by a courtesan named Thais, Alexander orders the magnificent palace of Persepolis burned to the ground. Was it revenge for the Persian burning of Athens 150 years prior? Or was it the act of a drunk tyrant losing control? The flames of Persepolis signal a turning point. The hero is becoming the villain. Darius is eventually found dead, murdered by his own governor, Bessus. Alexander gives his enemy a royal funeral and hunts down Bessus to execute him. He is now the King of Kings. But the Macedonian troops are growing restless. They are rich beyond their wildest dreams. They want to go home. But Alexander pushes them further east, into Afghanistan and Central Asia. He begins to adopt Persian customs. He wears Persian robes. He demands proskynesis, the act of bowing to the ground before the king. To his Greek freedom-loving soldiers, this is blasphemy, men only bow to gods. The tension explodes in Samarkand. At a drinking party, Black Clitus, the same man who saved Alexander's life at Granicus, questions the king. He mocks Alexander's new Persian ways and claims Alexander's victories were due to his father's soldiers. In a blind, drunken rage, Alexander grabs a spear and drives it through his friend's chest. Clitus dies instantly. Alexander collapses in grief, sobbing for days. But the damage is done. He has murdered his savior. The paranoia grows. He uncovers plots against his life, executing his own historian Callisthenes and even the loyal general Parmenion, the old guard of his father's army. Driven by a hunger that cannot be satisfied, he crosses the Hindu Kush mountains into India in 326 BC. He faces King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes. It is a nightmare. The Greeks face war elephants that trample men and horses. It is a bloody, muddy, horrific grinding match. Alexander wins, but at a terrible cost. His beloved horse, Bucephalus, dies. He wants to keep going. He wants to reach the end of the world and the great outer sea. But at the river Hyphasis, his army finally breaks. They have marched 11,000 miles. They haven't seen home in 8 years. They refuse to take another step. Alexander screams, he cries, he sulks in his tent for 3 days like a child. But the men do not budge. For the first time in his life, Alexander is defeated, not by an enemy, but by his own people. He turns back. The journey home is a disaster. He leads them through the Gedrosian desert, a death march where thousands die of thirst and heat stroke. It feels like a punishment for their mutiny. Back in Babylon, Alexander plans new conquests. Arabia. North Africa. Rome. But his body finally gives out. In 323 BC, after a night of heavy drinking, he falls ill with a fever. Malaria? Typhoid? Poison? We will never know. For days, he grows weaker. His soldiers, rough men who have marched across the world with him, file past his deathbed in tears. When asked to whom he leaves his empire, he whispers his final, cryptic words, to the strongest. On June 10, 323 BC, Alexander dies. He is 32 years old. The moment he dies, the empire collapses. His generals, the Diadochi, tear the world apart, fighting over the scraps of his conquest for 40 years. His bloodline is extinguished, his wife Roxana and his young son are murdered. So, what was it all for? Alexander changed the world forever. He smashed the barriers between East and West. He spread Greek culture, art, and language as far as India, ushering in the Hellenistic age that would pave the way for Rome and Christianity. He founded over 20 cities bearing his name. Alexandria in Egypt would become the lighthouse of knowledge for centuries. But he was also a destroyer. A man who killed hundreds of thousands in pursuit of personal glory. A man who conquered the world but could not conquer his own demons. In the end, he remains the ultimate benchmark. For 2,000 years, generals from Caesar to Napoleon have stood before his statue and wept, knowing that whatever they achieved, a 20-year-old boy from Macedonia had done it first, and done it better. He is the reminder that human potential is almost limitless, and that the cost of greatness is often your humanity.